league MVPs within his first 6 seasons. Only 3 quarterbacks have won 2 NFL MVPs, 2 Super Bowl MVPs in NFL history. That's Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, and Joe Montana. Pretty good company to be in. RC, is Mahomes a top 3 quarterback all time?
You ain't got to finish it. Yes.
All time?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was the guy Friday that was like, I don't want to have this conversation before the game, but I never said I didn't want to have it after the game. When you think about Patrick
If he
Mahomes,
walked away right now.
Oh, first off, he walks away right now. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, and he's third on the list.
Okay.
Because you have to think about this. He has as many Super Bowls as Peyton Manning, right? Who is somebody we consider to be one of the greatest of all time. He has more than Drew Brees, more than Aaron Rodgers. So we can't even really talk about the championships. But it's when you cut the film on, right? There is no draft in the world that when you just cut the film on and you don't give statistics, you don't give stories, you don't talk about MVPs, you're not talking about Super Bowl wins, and you said, when you watch Tom Brady play, would you pick him over Patrick Mahomes? No. When you watch Joe Montana play, would you pick him over Patrick Mahomes? No. So now
I don't know. I might be coming back at you, RC, a little bit.
No. Now, Joe Montana was amazing.
And a great athlete.
Great athlete.
Yeah.
Totally.
All of those things. But when we watch Patrick Mahomes do things we've never seen people do, now you have to move over to this. Is he winning? Is that individual play leading his team to success? And the proof is in the pudding. 5 straight AFC championships, 2 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 Super Bowl championships, and was the best player in the one they lost. They just ain't have nobody. Yeah. That dude, man, he's a top 3 quarterback for me all time.
Well,
I'm not going to argue against Patrick Mahomes, and RC makes a stellar case for Patrick Mahomes. Has Patrick Mahomes done anything that Joe Montana didn't do? And the answer is no.
No.
He hadn't. So we're going to get there, by the way. I loved what you said the other day before the game. And I sort of still feel like that we got time.
Yeah.
We don't have to rush into it. Patrick Mahomes, apparently, if he has health, he's going to be there. I just think Montana gets overlooked for some of the modern passing game with Bill Walsh.
That's true.
They invented it. And so they're building on what Walsh and Montana and Jerry Rice and all that incredible cadre of players did. Yeah. So I'm not going to argue against Mahomes. I believe everything RC said. I believe in it. And another guy who doesn't get mentioned because his team was so bad, and that's John Elway, the first 3 teams.
Yeah.
John Elway went 5 times. Yeah. 2 of those. Tell me the Hall of Fame offensive player John Elway played with, and the answer would be none. Now he got TD late in the career for the second.
That's when he went.
Shannon late. He got those 2 guys late. Yeah. He didn't have those guys early. He went to the Super Bowl by himself, essentially 3 times. But Patrick Mahomes is going to ascend. I may not ready to be crowning him today. Where do you have him
right now, Michael?
4th or 5th, no lower.
But that's still
great. He's only in his 6th
no question. It is.
I will say this to you. I have him no lower than 3. For all the things that RC articulated, I don't need to regurgitate that. It speaks for itself. The first 5 years as a starter. You say 6 years. No. He started for 5 years.
Right. Yeah,
and in the 5 years, that he's played, he's never been out of the conference championship game.
Crazy.
Ever. Yeah. And he went to Super Bowl 3 times, won 2 titles.
I'm going to stop calling it the first 6 seasons.
Here's the thing that I would say when we say, I won't eclipse him over Montana for this one reason. And it's the same thing. It's the same reason I refuse to give LeBron the nod over MJ.
Okay.
We have to pay attention to the times that you were playing in and the adverse circumstances that you were experiencing because of the way the game was called at that particular moment in time. I've heard Ray Lewis literally ignite a cadre of defensive players throughout the universe because it's such a crime in his mind how you can't play defense the way defense is supposed to be played in the NFL. The ticky-tack rules, you breathe on a quarterback, all of a sudden you can get thrown out of the game, et cetera, et cetera. You got all of this stuff going on. That's the era we're living in. That is not the era Joe Montana played in. It was far more physical, far more volatile. And as defensive players, you were allowed to get away with far more. And despite that, Joe Montana did what he did. And so when you look at it from that perspective, yes, we could have a different conversation once Patrick Mahomes gets to 4 Super Bowls, which I think he will. But what can't
well on his way.
But what can't be ignored is the times that we're living in, how football is called today.
Well, Ryan and Dan both, they caught the end of it. They're part of the bridge from the football that we're talking about, where Dan could get hit with a forearm in the head and no flag was coming.
From RC.
And these guys, I don't mean to make y'all sound old because I'm a lot older, but you were in that bridge. You watched it, what Stephen A. is talking about. Look, I sat there, I stood on the sideline at the end of games and watched Joe Montana. Remember, Joe Montana's career, that back end was lessened by the shots that he took. We talked about Richard Dent earlier, from players like that, and he still won 4 and didn't lose any. It could have had more. And goes to Kansas City and gets to a championship game.
No, it's a great point. Dan, where are you on this?
I mean, you guys know I have him at second all time. And I was saying this morning with RC. I really think, like, we have to sit in the greatness of Patrick Mahomes and just appreciate it. I really do. Like, as both a player and a person off the field. I mean, the NFL is so fortunate to have him as the face of their league. He's got every reason to be conceited, egotistical, like he's being, and equally as good of a player. But I think we need to point out exactly what he's accomplished. Okay, so in his first 6 seasons, because we've talked a little bit about this, but everything. So the guy's gone to 5 straight Pro Bowls. He's won 5 straight division titles. He's got 5 straight 12 or more win seasons. He's gone to 5 straight conference championship games. He's got 2 Super Bowl championships, 2 MVPs, and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. That's the greatest start to a career ever. Ever. Okay? And I think the second thing, and Legend Wilbon and Stephen A. probably know a little bit better than I do about this. I think the difference about Patrick, in my eyes, to some of the guys that you are mentioning, he's been to 3 Super Bowls. He's 2-1 in those 3 Super Bowls. And I could make the case that in all 3, he hasn't had the better team.
So many classic components to it winds up in so many ways being decided by that, because we all know everyone can do math and everyone can see as soon as that call is made, they're going to take 3 knees, they're going to kick a field goal, and this game is over. And that is just, bruh, Lord, as everyone laughs at the way I read your tweet. I can't even do it with a straight face. All right, RC, with a Super Sunday edition of Explain Your Tweets. There is no better Twitter follow while these games are going on than Ryan Clark. Here we go. The first one. That's 2 for Patrick. Best ever thus far. Only chasing the GOAT Tom Brady for me at this point. Man won the whole thing with Juju being his biggest threat outside and a defense that got ran through like competitors in a young Andy Reid's punt, pass, and kick tourney. RC, explain that tweet.
First of all, y'all saw Andy Reid in that punt, pass, and kick. Andy Reid was a grown man. He kicked that thing out of the stadium. But think about Patrick Mahomes and where he is right now in his career. We've gone through all of his accolades today. But when you think about who he was coming into the league, no one expected Patrick Mahomes to be this. And since he's been the starting quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs, he's been the absolute best in the league. The hardware says it. The film says it. And every time that Patrick Mahomes steps onto the field, we say this: the other team could be better. The other team can be close. But in the end, we believe in Patrick Mahomes more than we believe in anybody. It's like Tiger against the field when we knew what was happening on Saturday in that red shirt, on Sunday in that red shirt.
No question about it. And Mahomes frequently in a red shirt as well, working his way up historically. All right, next tweet. Andy Reid is mind-defying the Eagles in the red zone. RC, explain that tweet.
Man, it was like watching the Staking Mentalist. Andy Reid just knew what to do. He comes out and they do the ring around the Rosie huddle at one point. And then after they do the ring around the Rosie, they say, oh, we know what you're going to do. When we put somebody in motion, you're going to try to bump the coverage. When you bump the coverage, we're going to snap it right there, get somebody to the flat. We're not just going to do it one time. We're going to do it 2 times. And then when you have the numbers in the box, you hand the ball off to Isaiah Pacheco, who every time he runs the football, he's running it like everybody's chasing him, and he don't have no money. It's absolutely phenomenal what Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy were doing with that offense.
Now I read that more correctly. Now I see it says mine. Now I see what it actually said. Okay, I get it. All right, one more. Let's give some love to Jalen Hurts. No matter how this ends, there are no longer any questions about Jalen Hurts. Squash all that. He's their guy. RC, explain that tweet.
You know what? I think this one to me was the most simple to explain. You know, if you watch Jalen Hurts' career, you were thinking maybe they were going to put Gardner Minshew in the game at halftime, or maybe he was going to have to go play for another team to finally be respected. Jalen Hurts, coming into this game, the talk was about 2 black quarterbacks starting the game for the first time. The other conversation should have been that it was the MVP and the MVP runner-up. And Jalen Hurts was every bit of that. Everyone talked about what would he be like